All right, so this is going to be a little bit different. We've had more directed conversations with the other stuff we've done. This one, we're going to talk about something I don't know much about. And Ben, I was hoping, I've never been able to get into the Metal Gear franchise really at all.
Yeah.
It's not to say I don't like them. I don't really know them. When Metal Gear Solid came out and everyone was into it, I played Siphon Filter because, back then I couldn't afford 2 games at the same time, and that one had a taser that let you burn people to death. And I dug that. So I played that while everyone else played Metal Gear, and then Siphon Filter sucked, and Metal Gear went on to be a huge hit. The first Siphon Filter was great, and then they went downhill, just so you know what I'm talking about. I was hoping you might enlighten me a little bit about what you love so much about Metal Gear, and maybe I'll get more interested in it.
I gotta tell you, just that broad swing question is so hard to answer.
Let's focus
it's just such a deep, vast well of information and
Sure. I'm not asking you for a plot synopsis.
Yeah.
I'm talking about what's the thing that gets you excited about Metal Gear? Is it just the story and the conspiracy fiction, or is it some part of the gameplay, or is it how they mesh?
I would say, it's both of those. The story is so deep. Every character has a rich background in just this equal amount of conflict, equal amount, of just everything that would make a character great.
So what you're saying
or bad.
The narrative just draws you in?
Yeah, it's just every story, minus Revengeance, is it's just a wellspring of information.
Would you like to qualify that little under your breath statement?
Okay, look, let's just get Revengeance out of the way, since that was the most
recent
release
at the time we're recording this. I know Phantom Pain is being made, but
Revengeance could have been named Kojima's redheaded stepchild, because that's basically how it was treated. Because Kojima wanted to focus, I think, either on Grounds Zero or Metal Gear Solid 4. I don't remember which one he was working on simultaneously. It wasn't Revengeance either. It was Metal Gear Solid,
whatever it was.
Revengeance, I think.
No, it became Revengeance, but before that it was something else. Who remembers?
It was Metal Gear. I can't remember, but
that's not the point. We know the game you're talking about.
Revengeance. The gameplay was excellent. Graphics, everything, the way it worked, and the different views you could take, and the things.
As an outsider to the franchise, I liked Revengeance. Now, I didn't play it enough to get to the end of the story, so I don't know how that works out. But as a gameplay-only exercise, I thought it was neat.
The gameplay is awesome.
And that one, well, okay, it still got a little tangled. But that being an outside kind of, it's not in the main narrative, it's an outside thing, that kind of made me want to try it. And wasn't that made by Platinum Games?
I think so.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Yeah.
Everything they do is interesting. It's not always something I want to play a lot of, but it's always something I want to try.
But if you're a hardcore Metal Gear guy like myself, and you've played every game, you've followed through the story, you've stuck it out, you've even for myself, I've earned the stealth camouflage on 3 and 4. On harder levels, which I'll go into what that means later. I just expected a higher tier story on Revengeance than what I got. It was like I went out for a 7-course meal and ended up with something along the lines of Bennigan's.
A Big Mac.
Yeah. Well, a little bit more than McDonald's, but definitely somewhere in the Bennigan's,
right on.
mock restaurant area. Yeah, just...
To borrow one of my terms, you went for a Shiner Bock and you got a Bud Light.
Yeah. No, I got a Mad Dog or one of those malt liquor. No, it wasn't that horrible. I mean, the gameplay, I love cutting crap up, and who doesn't like doing that? even us, Metal Gear guys, you every now and again you like to rip loose and waste your ammunition.
Sure. I mean, like I said, I'm not invested in the narrative, so I didn't have a problem with Revengeance. I thought it was like all of them. The plot's a little dense, but that's not what I was there for. Anyway.
I didn't think it was dense enough. It wasn't dense
Really?
compared to any other Metal Gear. It was way too light, and it seems like to me they tried really hard to nail that. Like, what did you say? That conspiracy theory.
Fiction angle.
Yeah, and they just fell shy. They didn't miss it completely, but they did not.
They hit the ball, but it went foul.
Yeah, and I would say probably overall, out of 5 stars, I would have given it probably somewhere like a 2.5.
Really?
In just speaking to other Metal Gear guys.
Yeah.
Now, to the general public, I would probably have gone a lot further because they're not as invested.
Would you say, for people like me, and again, I didn't beat this game. I played it a bit.
Okay.
There wasn't anything else I wanted to play at the time, but I
still have
something.
DLC that I've downloaded. I haven't played yet.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm the same way, dude. Freaking Injustice. I downloaded Zatanna. Still haven't tried it out.
I don't know. Well, see, I'm still trying to give myself time. I think I'm going to go back to it.
Give
it was just
shot.
because I was there like the morning when GameStop opened. I had it pre-ordered and I was ready to go.
Push the clerk down. Give me my thing!
Yeah, I had to fight all of 2 other people to get it, and literally that's all that was there that morning. I was like, really? Come on.
Well, they like to make you think pre-order or you might not get a copy.
True. Well, I think and it's funny too. I think something else was coming out that day.
Oh yeah.
And so
they were there for that.
One of the other guys was there for that, and anyway. So yeah, I got it home, played it, and I was ready for this deep, vast tapestry of story and writing and characters and things. And I'm like, just don't. I'm not. I'm a big believer in suspending one's belief.
Sure.
When you come into the theater, but just wasn't regular Kojima stuff, and obviously because another company was managing all that. So
right on.
And what's his name? Quinn, the guy who voices Raiden. Now obviously they couldn't get somebody else to do Raiden. It had to be the guy who did Raiden from Metal Gear Solid 2.
Well, not necessarily. They're replacing the guy that did Snake with Kiefer Sutherland. He was a little salty about it.
That is true, and I'm actually kind of excited because if anybody could play Snake, it would be the Jack Bauer. I mean, there's just no other guy you could get.
Well, it's easy to judge. It's easy to judge early, but why not try?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of optimism. I'm not saying even get excited. I'm just saying it might work out. Why not give it a try before you run to a forum and before you start pouring out? It's fine to get concerned, but
And my original thought here was Quinn, not the best voice actor, just not. And I really felt like the director should have come in and said, "Look, dude," because there's a part where, and if you played Metal Gear Solid 2, Raiden has always been a character that hinges on whether or not he's going to be good or bad. He's always been very flexual in, I'm a killer, but I'm fighting for good. I do this, but this is the whole point, and he's always had that great internal conflict. But God help me, when he began to, let's say, explore his evil side in Revengeance, he began to do this Batman thing, and and you're on the codex, and he's like, and so what do you? I'm pretty evil, huh? Yeah. Like, what are you doing? Where was the director? It was like, all right, roll him, and then he's making a sandwich somewhere.
I'm cashing in here. You mind? I'm counting my money. I'm counting my money, Quinn.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know what to do.
And
just shut up and do a voice.
As a fan, I wouldn't have gotten anybody else to do the voice for Raiden. I mean, Raiden is Raiden.
Hey, even the best actors need a director.
True, yeah, and that's very true. Like For instance, Robin Williams. I mean, if there was no director on set, you'd never get anything filmed. He would just sit there and improv the whole thing, you know, and just, and I went, oh, you are here, my brother. You know.
We all know Robin Williams.
Yes.
And don't get me wrong, I like a lot of his movies. I think he's a funny guy.
Love him.
But he's better when he's
a
directed.
director. Yes. And
same with Jim Carrey.
And all like, oh.
You know what happens when you don't direct Jim Carrey? You get Batman.
Ooh.
Hi-yo!
It's not your fault, Paul.
I know.
It's not your fault. Paul.
I bought my ticket, man.
It's not your fault.
I wanted to like it so bad.
It's not your fault.
Val Kilmer, though.
That's Val Kilmer's fault.
I like Val Kilmer. I don't care. I like him better.
Not as Batman.
No, God, not as Batman.
I thought that's where you were going.
No, God, no. But as an actor, I like Val Kilmer.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect.
And I like
for
him better now that he's fat. I hope he gets more roles. God bless him. We need
you're
more
gonna,
fat actors.
You're going to smack me for this, but I really liked him in MacGruber.
What?
He played the villain.
I'm not going to smack you for that.
I know you don't like that movie.
It didn't. I didn't hate it. It just I wasn't laughing after 30 minutes. I got bored when I moved on.
But back to Metal Gear.
Dun, dun, dun.
There we go. That's our bread and butter move, you know. What's that?
I was giving you fanfare.
Oh.
Right the ship, Ben. Bring us back on
Yes,
topic.
yes. Throwing the captain's wheel far to the left.
Hard to start.
And so anyway, Revengeance, like the character, hinges on good and bad.
Okay. Well, that's a fair point.
Yeah.
So, now, you talked about Revengeance.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go back to the game that got you interested in Metal Gear.
Okay.
I want to know if you can, you know, I don't need a bullet point list or anything, but tell me some of your feelings about the first time you played this and why you got so invested in Metal Gear.
That's a good question. I first started with Metal Gear 2.
Really? Not with Solid?
Right. And I just, I've always been a very in-the-box kind of gamer where, a title comes out and everybody's buzzing about it, but I'm like, unless I trust your interpretation, I'm not going to go spend money on it. I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not going to download any demos. I won't mess with it. That's just how I am.
Sure.
And so I'm a very, very discriminate game player. A friend of mine brought me, I think we went over to his house. We played Metal Gear a little bit, and he showed me like all the different weapons and just the deep, a little bit of the storyline, and I really didn't get it, but I was interested enough. And as crazy as this sounds, my dad one day shows up and wants to play it because I guess someone had told him about it.
Really?
So he sent me to Blockbuster one day to go buy it used. I'm like, okay. I started it, and I mean, that opening scene, you're going through, Snake, well, don't forget, you've got a pack of cigarettes, and, and he's going through, like, all this stuff.
Is
and
that Otacon?
Yeah. And so,
Ben!
And so, he's just going through this whole thing, and and I think it took, like, 22 minutes. Yeah, to just get through that, and I was, I just sat through it, and I was like, okay, I'm hanging on with this, I'm good, and he's sitting there on the bow of the ship, and I'm like trying to okay, this button does, okay, now I'm crouching. It took me a while to get the hang of it, and then once I began to get the gameplay down, I was going through, and I just had no idea I was tasting the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And that phrase gets thrown around a lot, but literally, the tip of the iceberg that you see floating out of the water is nothing.
80% is underwater.
Yeah.
Under the surface is what they
Yeah, under the surface of the water. And it's just, I wasn't ready for the story that was in front of me. Because by the end of that game, I was hesitant to call it a game, but it's just such, because it's just so rich. Like, the AI.
Well, let's say by the end of the narrative, because it sounds to me like you're one of the types who the gameplay's there and it's great, but you're there to
the story
live
is
Snake's
just so
story.
yeah. The story is just so rich, and by the end of that narrative, as you said, the game is screwing with me. It's like, hey, this is really good. No, just kidding. And it's actually almost like acknowledging me as a player. And it's like, I think 1 in the morning, and I'm like hearing things outside of my house. I'm like going, what the hell? Like, hairs are standing up on the, like, wire. What is going on? And like random things are showing up, and then like there's a random video clip of some Japanese girl like on a hammock or something, and I'm like, what? And all of this stuff is explained. It sounds like some bad trip, okay, but it's just, God, it just was such a great game. And so with that, I had to go back and play Metal Gear Solid.
So that's the one that really drew you in.
That Metal Gear 2. And what was funny was that was the game that pissed a lot of people off.
Because of the riding segment?
Because they couldn't be Snake for more than like a quarter of the game. Because you got to be Snake in the beginning when you're on the boat, but then, that's a whole mission, and then 2 years later you're riding.
Well, there's no point to go over. Everyone knows, even I, that's penetrated the gaming subculture, as it were. That's part of the collective unconscious when it comes to gaming. So I've heard it said, and again, I'm not the guy to ask. Just to qualify this for anyone who happens to be listening, like I said, Siphon Filter I played when the first Metal Gear was getting popular. When the second Metal Gear was out, I didn't have a PS2, and by the time I got one, I was already invested in Splinter Cell. Yeah. Because I really liked the first Splinter Cell.
It looked really good. I just never got it. It was one of those things I just never got around to.
Well, hey.
Yeah.
And that's
and Metal Gear probably just did it for me. So
yeah.
I just really...
See, and that's the thing, is I don't think I could take 2 stealth games at once. Stealth is a great mechanic. I'm reticent to call it a genre. I know a lot of people do, but it's an interesting mechanic. It's fun. I don't like it when they force me to do it in a game that's not stealth focused.
Right.
But that's why I like Splinter Cell so
much.
And
GTA 5 is picking up a little bit of that too.
Sneak mode is fine. That's not forced stealth segments.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about, a shooter that we're not going to change the gameplay at all. You don't have a button to sneak.
But you better not make any noises.
Yeah. But don't you dare get caught doing boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's another type of mission. You know what? I'm veering off topic.
Sure.
Let me right the ship. Hard to port. Going on to, I've heard it said that Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is the finest example of all of them.
It was one of my favorites because for the first time, you got to play Big Boss. It was everybody's introduction to Big Boss. This is who Snake's dad is. And so
was everybody kung fu fighting?
I don't get it.
Here comes the big boss. Let's get it on.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm with you. Okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
Completely through. Okay, so you got to meet Big Boss. And that was just such a huge deal. Because there is just so much that's said about Big Boss. How he is this warrior beyond other warriors. Like, there's just nobody that can touch him.
He's a legend in that universe.
Yes.
Okay.
And so you got to play the legend. You got to be the legend. And you got to go through his story that catapulted him into the title of Big Boss. Because before he was Big Boss, he was Snake.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And it's just, there aren't enough words in my head. I'm hesitant to say in the English language, but just in my head, there's just not enough words to describe the magnitude of the story and how intricate it is and how so well written. And there's not an ounce of it in any game that I could talk about that, where they write something and it's in the game and you're like, well, wait a minute, in episode 93 when blah, blah, blah,
So there's no way you could, even if you were the type who likes to pick nits.
Yeah.
You would probably just have
if I were
a hard time doing it.
If I were to turn on Picky Ben he sleeps a lot. I off the top, I may have to go think about this for a while, but I can't think of any one thing that I would like. What are you guys thinking? Except for Revengeance, of course.
Well, I tell you, and admittedly, my experience with Metal Gear as a franchise is limited. But one thing I think they do really well is they marry the narrative and the gameplay together seamlessly, and that's the power of games to me. When you can, when having a story.
You're playing a movie, and that's Kojima's thing.
I'm hesitant to say playing a movie. There's a lot of cutscenes, there's a lot of dense stuff, but the gameplay that you're doing, the stealth focus, soldier based, you're in this war, and this war exists in this way, and the way the gameplay goes is married to that concept.
A lot of times it's not even a war, but it's like a particular thing that needs to get done to save the world kind of thing.
Again, outside guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
A Cold War is still a war.
And going back to 3, another great thing about it was the camouflages. The different suits you got to pick up. The amount of weapons. Just nuts crazy. They really went all out on that one. And you had like a gauge that showed you how well you're camouflaged, and in a second you could change suits and change the camouflage on your face and this, that, and the other. And you got to learn about that snakes so that snake becomes Big Boss. You got to learn about the person that he learned everything from, who was called the Boss, who was actually a woman. And this character had never been introduced. It was just such a great. It was definitely one of my favorites. I would say my all-time favorite was 4.
Really?
Because for the first time in a long time, I'd seen a story close so very well. And I like the gameplay. I like the suit where you're like, and you can absorb your surroundings and
chameleon suit?
Yeah. Or it was actually Octo Camo is what it was called.
Okay, then. Octo Camo it is.
Yeah.
But we're running a little bit long for this,
Yes.
so we are going to call it a day here. We'll probably revisit this topic, I'm sure, once the next games start coming out.
And how.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll want to go on about it some more. And frankly, I'm interested. Even though I'm not a fan, it's still exciting to hear someone passionate about a game.
Snake in the free world? Are you kidding me?
He's still rocking America. All right, so we're going to cut it out here. You know the drill. Like us if you like us. Subscribe if you want to. I will post links to the Twitters and the emails and all the important things.
Yes.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Word.
Out. You usually say peace.
Sorry.